Welcome back, everyone. This is Mike Brickman with Radan, guys, and today we're going to have some fun with Radmax. Some 3D fun creating a fixture for this guy right here. That's today's goal. Let's dive in. The first thing that I'm going to do is we're going to come up here to Cut Auto, and we're going to apply some toolpath to this guy. And I don't care how it gets applied. I just need to have it be there just for reference. Notice all of our cuts at the moment are blue, which would indicate that they're out of range. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come up here to model position to the machine bed, which brings up this dialog box. I'm going to select that I want to push this to the center of the bed, and then we'll transform and whoosh. There we've got it right in the middle, all axes from the center point of my part. But as you can see, we still have a bit of infractions in the Y and in the Z. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take heed to those warnings, and we're going to go translate by. So we're in the negative movement, so over too far in the Y. So let's move that to the positive direction 5, kind of take over the negative 4.6. We also have negative 3.3 in Z, so let's also go maybe move that up as well. And we'll hit transform. Now we've got all green in all directions, and all of our cuts show green as well. And we're going to close. We could, and we are, just to kind of clean this up so there's not so much information. We're going to delete all the cuts now. Now that we know that we've got our part in a good position, and I'll explain that in a second as well. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to actually change the background color. I know that's a little off topic, but you'll understand that in a minute. We're going to be doing a lot of things with color, and I just want those colors to pop off the screen, which I think will do a better job if the screen was black. So, let me go back. Go up to View, Properties, under System Colors, Graphics Background, we'll select, we want this to be black. I'm going to use my secondary color as a gray for the gradient, and then we'll hit Apply. So that should give us a little bit of depth. Then I'm going to move this guy over just a little bit. Now we're going to jump into the fixtures. So grid fixture design, let's select that. Look at this pop-up that comes up, and this will give us all the information that we need to do to be able to design a nice little egg crate fixture to hold up that part. The first thing that we need to come across is how thick do we want the blades to be for the support. I would recommend that you would use the same thickness for the fixture blades as you do for the base plate. And then we can make more base plates. That way we can cut all of these parts out of the same material. This is why I mentioned we wanted to kind of position this where we could cut it to begin with, is because I can choose to show the base plate. So if I'm using this base point, it's going to come back to basically the home of the machine. So I can just throw this base plate up. Maybe it's a permanent fixture. Maybe this is a part we're going to make a lot. So we're going to, as we make this, we'll weld it all together, make it super stable, and then we'll just throw this on the machine, homing it to this corner, and then we can run a program. If I turn that off, and then if I show base plate, it'll show me some basically a value that I've given it to exceed the limit of it. And that's what we're doing here. So we could increase this size, making it bigger or smaller, depending upon what we wanted to do as far as support for this part. Most of the time, fixtures are going to be created like this, because when you export the code for this, there's lots of different ways that you can home in that position where the part is. And a lot of times, in my experience, you're going to re-zero the machine wherever you put this. So fixing it to a position really isn't that important, because there's lots of ways around being able to accurately cut this when we need to cut it. So with all that, let's kind of tackle what we can see here next. The tolerance for how tight you want the feet to be when they go into the holes. How big you want the feet to be. So these are those little tabs, so to speak, we're going to have on our fixture that's going to go into the base plate. So we're going to make 0.8 slits, and we're going to have the tabs be 0.4, which I think is a little bit big. So let's just go 1/4 inch on those. A little bit of a chamfer to help with the placement of getting them into the holes. And then these two guys are the standoff. If we're going, we have a lot of holes in the top of here. So we're telling it to, as it comes up to where that hole is going to be, we want it to back up 0.2, and we also want the plate or the fixture support to drop 0.2. So you can play around with these depending upon what you need to have as far as your design as well. The next thing I'm going to do is click on calculate lines, and you'll notice we've got a really large part with a really small grid. So I'm going to increase my grid up to like 5 by 5 and then click it again, calculate. Now that looks more realistic. We've got plenty of support coming across, and we got three in a bunch. So let's take a look at this, right? So the first line that we have here, this yellow one, it's right in the radius-ish of my part. So if we click on edit lines, I can move these lines around. So I'm going to say move. I'm going to select the double arrows, select the line that I want to move, and then I want to move it in. Maybe have it reside nice right in that flat spot. And then maybe this one will move out in its flat spot. And then maybe the top one will move so it's going right down the middle of the line. We can also extend the lines, or retract, which we're going to do probably at all the blue ones. Whoop. Be a little more accurate in my selection, Mike. There we go. I am picking it. There we go. So as you can see this right here, I'm moving it in. This is the distance that I'm moving it, so maybe I want to move it more. We'll go 1/2 inch jumps in and out. So I'll bring it in, bring it in. I think that's too much. And we'll select the next one. I'm not going to do this on every line, but this is how you would be able to manage if you didn't want them to be in a particular tight spot of your fixture. So let's just go ahead and we'll select maybe this one. I do want these to be in a bit. Maybe more. Skip him, and we'll do this one. We'll also do the yellow ones. Okay, now that we have all that done, we'll say that we're done. And we can kind of look to see what we're going to produce. The next thing that we need to do is select our lines to be able to create the fixture. So we're going to click on select lines, and then there's a fast way we can click the ones that we want, or we can cancel that. We can do select lines, and we can choose this, which basically inverts our selection. So if you pick in space, it picks them all. I'm going to just pick a select view just so we can see what happens. I'm going to pick the outside yellows, and then I'll pick this one, and maybe it doesn't really matter, just to reduce down the amount of pictures it's going to make. And then we'll say calculate fixture, and off she goes, drawing in the background here a little bit of 2D geometry, which then it turns into 3D geometry. Now we've got our fixture. So if I try to zoom in up here, there's that standoff that I was talking about, that 0.2 by 0.2. Oops, right there. If we get in there really nice and deep. So that distance there is 0.2, and it's got a 0.2 drop, which gives it, when it's cutting, that it doesn't cut through the fixture when it cuts your part, which would be nice. From there, what we're going to do is we're going to say that we are done with making our fixture, and we're going to export them out as DXFs. Oops. First thing I want to do before we do that is I'm going to hide our part. Same reason is because now if I go to export my DXFs, I can use this inverted selection. I can select them all, click OK, and I want to export them out as multiple files. If I do a single file, it would be a multi-part DXF. If I do multiple files, it's individual. So it's a little bit twist on words, but we'll say we're done. with that, we'll find a place to stick them, which, let's see if I can find a place really quick. Here's a blank folder. Sure, we'll save them in there. All right, so now that, whoops, there they all are. All of our base plates and fixture blades are all created. What we're going to do is we're going to import them in for cutting. So I'm just going to grab them all, import them in, and I'm going to say import. And you can see that it's got the layout of the part, and it's got some etching to tell me kind of what blade this is. And if I bring the base plate up, it's got the position of where we were on the machine. So there's our position again, base plate information. If you come back to Radan, there it's going to etch that on my, so for future use, I can find this back quickly. And then if I slide up over here on my part, there's all of my blade locations to tell me where, basically the grid of how I'm going to put these back in. So the base plate gets them, and the blades themselves get the information about how to recreate this. So back to Radmax, we'll bring our part back. Hopefully that was something that helped you guys. If you're looking for some information about how to create a fixture inside Radmax, now you know.